Isn't it easy to be thankful when life is that pretty pink package all wrapped up with bows and it's just so delicious? How easy is it to be thankful when the circumstances of your life are not what you think you choose? Can you find a way to turn your face and your heart to the presence of God, and in the midst of difficulty and challenge, in the midst of tragedy and crisis, can we find the thing to be grateful for in that moment?
I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. In this Thanksgiving season, I have a lot to be thankful for. It wasn't so long ago that I was in a wheelchair much like this one, and this community helped to support me through my healing process. I had suffered with debilitating chronic pain for 18 years. That's half of my life I was in excruciating pain. Everything was difficult for me. Whether it was taking a shower, just getting out of bed, making food, going to the grocery store. Everything was a struggle. And it took large amounts of pain medications for me to be able to function at all. It was very, very difficult. I was medically diagnosed with fibromyalgia, myofascial pain syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, generalized pain syndrome, and eventually muscle dystonia. It was the muscle dystonia that really broke me. It started with a tremor in my right hand, and that tremor gradually increased up my arm, and then down my right leg, into the side of my face. And as this happened, I was forced to begin using canes, and then arm braces. And as the condition worsened, orthopedic leg braces. And finally, as it consumed my entire body, I was forced into the chair. And I spent most of my time writhing. Now, as you can imagine, chronic pain is agonizing in itself. But not being able to stop moving uncontrollably for hours on end exacerbated my pain to levels that I didn't know were possible. And no amount of pain medication, no matter how powerful, could take that away. I began to become progressively more suicidal because it was so intense. I fantasized about just jumping out the window, anything to make it stop. And finally, in a moment of desperation, I did something that I had never done before. I said out loud, "God, help me. I can't do this anymore. I give it to you. You take this, you do this, I'm done." And the most incredible thing began to happen. My life began to shift. A wonderful, caring man came into my life who eventually became my partner. And even though every appearance was that I was broken and disabled and heading towards death, he affirmed the truth of me. He saw that I could be healed, that I could be whole. He embraced that possibility. And Spirit began to move in our lives. We were led here to these islands of Hawaii, to this very community. Spirit set us down right across the street. We got an apartment right across the street. And I didn't know anything about unity at the time, and this was about the farthest that I could walk at that point. I had no idea that unity is founded and grounded in healing principles. But from the very first moment that I came into this church, the minister, Sky, the ministry team, the chaplains, they all affirmed the truth for me that I could be healed, that I would be healed. And let me tell you, I thought these people were crazy. I mean, seriously, because I had spent 10 years of my life focused on every treatment possibility for these conditions. And every doctor and specialist had told me, this is permanent. There's nothing that you can do about this. There's no possibility of healing. You have to accept this and learn to live with the pain. But I can tell you, there's no way that I could have lived with that pain for another 18 years, for the rest of my life. And so I began to come to the Wednesday night prayer, healing, and meditation services. And I would go into meditation, and I would ask, what is it that I'm ready to release? What am I ready to let go of? And I would write it on a slip of paper at the burning bowl, and I would burn it up, symbolically giving it to God, releasing it. Or I would go to the candlelight station, and I would light a candle for myself, because my light appeared to be dim. But I'd also began lighting candles for all the people in my life who had hurt me, all the people in my life who had abused me, all the people that I felt had created suffering. And then I began to write prayer requests, not just for myself and my loved ones, but for those very people, and I would put them in the box because I realized how much they must have been suffering, how much pain they must have been in to do the things that they did. I began to meditate and pray, and I found out about our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, and how Myrtle healed herself of an incurable condition, tuberculosis, when that was a death sentence. You know, there was no treatment available then. And I started to do the same meditation that Myrtle would do. I would go within myself, and I would say, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry that I ever believed that something was wrong with you. I'm sorry that I ever saw you as less than whole. Please forgive me. Forgive me. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for this opportunity of life. Thank you for giving me the experience in this world. I support you. And as I began to pray and meditate more regularly, I began to receive guidance. I would hear the still small voice, and I would listen to that guidance, and I would take the action that that guidance was suggesting. I began to walk barefoot. I began to swim and connect with the land here in Hawaii. I began to do all the things that I was led to do to work with practitioners in this community. And the most amazing thing began to happen. The appearance and the experience of the pain began to fall away. And for the first time in 18 years, I have the experience of having no pain. I am totally pain-free. I take no medication. Thank you. And it's this community and these principles and these actions that have brought this healing into my life. And what I want you to know today is that there is always possibility. I was told over and over again by specialists, this is not possible. This can't be done. But there is always the possibility. The possibility opens the door. And then trust. Follow the guidance. Take the actions that you're led to. And you may find that your life transforms as well. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this community. I'm grateful for this team, for these principles, and for every one of you who has supported me in this process. I stand before you today, healed as a chaplain, a licensed Unity teacher, and an intern here at this church. So thank you for giving me my life back. And now I would like to introduce my friend and fellow intern, Locke, as she shares her own story of transformation.
Thank you. My journey to this exact point started 2 years ago. I was working overseas for the Department of Defense as an anti-terrorism officer. I was a busy, busy bee. I felt like I had something to prove. I was the only female overseas as an anti-terrorism officer. And so I worked later. I studied harder. I did what I had to do in order to be the best. However, that came at a price. My family was affected by that. Eventually, I got divorced, and I had to get a nanny because I was still working weekends, traveling, and so somebody had to be there to take care of my kids. One day I received an email from my former husband saying that he planned on moving to Japan. He was active duty Air Force, and he had gotten orders to Japan, and he planned on taking my 2-year-old son, Makai, with him. I laughed to myself. There's no way a judge is going to give an active duty military member custody of a child. On October 20th, 2012, I sat outside of my house, which was located right next to Ramstein Air Base. And I watched that plane take off with my 2-year-old son. I sat there frozen, wondering if he was looking outside the window, looking down at me, wondering when I would see him next, if he would remember his mom the next time I saw him. And as I sat there in disbelief, a sudden calm came over me. I had surrendered. I gave it to God. There was nothing else that I could do. And as soon as I surrendered, suddenly a voice, clear as day, whispered to me, "Take this time to grieve. The real work will begin soon." Within the following weeks, between lawyer visits and work, I found myself looking at new thought material. I found an author, her name is Florence Scovel Shinn, and I read her book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. I began doing prayer, meditation. She emphasized the importance of that, and then to follow your hunches, your intuition. She says, if prayer is you telephoning to God, then your intuition is God telephoning to you. And I believed that. I felt that. I also had a feeling that I needed to go to Hawaii. I had no idea why Hawaii. I don't know anyone there. But I knew I had to follow my intuition. So I told my boss, I will be leaving soon. But Spirit didn't tell me just yet to turn in my resignation paperwork. I just told everybody that I saw, I'll be leaving soon. I'm going to Hawaii. When asked why, I said, because Spirit told me. I'm being led. I had a secure job with the Department of Defense, and to just give it all up, everyone, my human resources director, my boss, my coworkers, they thought I was insane. But I was following my true guide, God. My mom said to me, "You don't need God, you need a job." Okay, I need a job, but something tells me that I will be okay. One morning, while I was driving to work, something whispered to me, "Today's the day that you turn in your resignation paperwork." I said, "Okay." So I got to work, typed it up, and I walked it up the hill to my human resources department. But I said to myself, "Infinite Spirit, God, if this is mine to do, then give me a sign. And if not, then I won't do it." As soon as I got done with that sentence, somebody pulled up next to me and said, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be gone by now?" I said, "I guess I am." And so, went in there, handed in my paperwork, and began to process out of Germany, headed to Hawaii. Spirit led me to just get rid of all my stuff. Don't sell it, just get rid of it. Give it to needy families, give it to whomever, but just, you have to carry, or you have to travel lightly, basically. I was awarded my brand new Jeep by the judge, and a Saturday I woke up, Spirit told me, it's time to give back the Jeep. So I gave it back to my former husband. During this time as well, I didn't have any contact with my husband, or my former husband. So I didn't have contact with my son. Had no idea, thought they were in Japan, no idea where they were at, how they were doing. But I continued on praying and listening to Spirit, following my intuition. October of last year, I landed here. And while I was on the bus one Sunday morning, a thought came to me to check out New Thought churches, do a keyword search. I found Unity Church of Hawaii. And on the media player, I pressed play, and suddenly I saw Reverend Sky St. John, and at the time, the volunteer coordinator, Kayupo Cullins, and she was dressed up in a Mickey Mouse or Minnie Mouse suit, and I said, "These people are crazy. I've got to go." That Wednesday, I found myself at the prayer and meditation healing service. And just like Chris, I went to the burning bowl station, releasing resentment towards the judge, towards my former husband. Lit a candle at the candle lighting station for myself, for all of those who I felt had wronged me. I started this forgiveness process, really going in and finding that it was only me. I attended C classes, spiritual education and enrichment classes, full time. And there, the ministerial staff gave me wonderful tools to use, and I started to apply them. I started to see a difference in my life. I became a chaplain. I became a licensed Unity teacher candidate. And now I'm a pastoral intern. This Thanksgiving, while you're sitting with your ohana, you're eating your food, enjoying conversation, remember that there's always, in the midst of tragedy, there is always a blessing there. There is a gem that is just for you. Remember that. As for me, turns out that my son was here in Hawaii the entire time. Spirit, God, did not lead me astray. And so I can truly say that I am grateful to that judge who saw something that I could not at that time. I am grateful to my former husband that allowed me, his decision, allowed me to really find the divine design of my life. Now my job is God. And I am grateful to my family and my son Makai and my daughter Leilani. Come here. Because the stuff, thank you, really does work. These tools, apply them. They will transform. They will change your life. I promise you. God makes a way when there is no way. Believe that. Know that to be true. And finally, I am grateful to all of you. Thank you for seeing something inside of me. And thank you, God, for this wonderful opportunity. Blessings to you all. Thank you.